Hello, good evening. Now, recently, of course, you guys know Facebook is no longer keeping the Facebook live streams forever, right? So now we have to, of course, make sure that we download all the Facebook lives that we want to keep because Facebook will delete them after 30 days naturally, isn't it? So because of that, I've been looking into my previous Facebook lives and downloading some of them, right? Especially from the past year and a half or so, right? And I realized that actually a lot of times the starting already begins a little bit earlier. It's before we get the cue from the prompters, even from the Facebook page itself, right, that actually has started. So it tends to start a few seconds, and then I've been looking at the clips of all my monthly forecasts where I'm standing there for a few seconds, looking at the camera, waiting for it to start, but the stream has actually started. So I hope today it actually was right, kind of pretty much on time, okay? We are going to be talking about the outlook for the April Metal Dragon month, which I know has already started for a few days, but there was no slot to properly give it its space. So it's got its like entirety of the details, right? Whatever it is that I want to share and communicate with you to have a stand-alone slot until tonight, right? So here we go. I know it's a few days late. So as always, if you can help me share this feed on your timeline, if you think that information like this, monthly forecasts, updates on metaphysics, astrology, and so on will be information that benefits your friends on your Facebook timeline, do help me share. And of course, if you can help me like the page that I'm streaming from, the main page, my public figure page, Kong Yu, that would also be appreciated. Okay, so if you can help me do that, that would be wonderful. In the meantime, I just want to make sure that the stream is going on smoothly and you're able to hear this clearly, and also make sure the video is clear while I warm up before we get into the official forecast itself. Okay, so I'm looking at my page as well. This may not be my page. Just double check that. Yeah, because of the different cues there, especially when it comes to the number of audience members. Oh, they're pretty similar for a start tonight. Okay, so do help me share this feed out so this can reach more people, especially live, because there is that certain energy of the collective that is very much energizing, like shall we say, when there are more people actually streaming this live than if you were to actually participate with this and look through this Facebook live, post live at your own leisure. Okay, so do help me share this out, and we will get started, okay, with the April Metal Dragon forecast. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. I appreciate it. And let's get started. So we are talking about, okay, first of all, approaching the Metal Dragon month in as maximum a capacity as possible. So if you saw the title in the previous page, right? So I talk about inner healing as well as external clarity, right? Because as I was layering the information onwards, especially leading up to April, from March, and then from everything that has been revealed, everything that we have discovered, we have talked about, we have shared from last year, the Dragon year, in connection as well in the second part of it, which is basically this year in the Snake. So more and more layers of the information come out. And as I layer on even, for example, the planetary transits, right, from the movement of the planets out in the universe, right, which is studied, I guess, generally in more detail. We're talking about which planet is in which part of the universe, which part of its orbit when it comes to the sun, right, revolving around the sun. Then even more layers of information come from these transits of these planets as we study them. And then every time there is a convergence and there's a major like cluster of planets in a particular part of the universe, right, it shows us even more information, and especially reconfirming the astounding depth and the profound nature of Chinese astrology, right? So it's amazing, and it's always very exciting to keep discovering more and more information, which we then, of course, in its readiness, in its time, we also share, right, with our followers, such as on the public pages, like this feed that's broadcasting for tonight, and then, of course, in the many layers and different types of workshops that we share and teach as well. Okay, so it is profound, it's very deep. So that's why there are many layers and many depths. There is the outward yang, which is all about how do we use the current energy so that they benefit us in the most, right, from the present, and then moving into what we want to achieve sometime in the near future. Then there's another layer, right, the deeper layer, the more yin layer, that's all about transmuting, right, the energy of, for example, like our karma, the energy of what's transpired already up to say 2024, prior to the start of period 9, right? And how does those energies that we have vibrated, that we have exuded, and that's been part of us, that we have shared with the world, how does that then affect moving into the rest of period 9, right? So there's that depth of it. And of course, with that past information or the past energy vibrations, what we want to do is to be able to transmute them, to be able to, with awareness, come to realize what they truly mean in terms of what we have done, the actions that we have taken, or in some occasions, the non-action that we did not take, or the non-action that we took, which is basically not taking the action, which then, of course, has resulted in a certain vibration, right? And how do we then learn from this? How do we then, from the learning lessons, gain wisdom so that we can transmute that so that our energy becomes lighter from the present onwards, right? And this is, of course, very, very important if we want to realign our present energy and then also be able to shift it so that then we can move towards where we really want to go instead of where we are bound to be headed based on whatever that we've previously done or previously basically overall as energy beings vibrated. Okay, so now let's bring back the details, okay, for the actual month of the Metal Dragon. Now, of course, the Metal Dragon is the last of the spring animal signs, okay, and then of course it's particularly for the April of this year, 2025, right? So looking into further layers and further details of it. Okay, so before we move on any further, if it's just joined me in the past 4 or 5 minutes or so, if you can help me share this out live on your timeline, right, so that the information can reach a wider audience live, right, that would be really, really appreciated, right, and a big thumbs up if you can do that. In the meantime, of course, if you have any comments, any questions, any clarifications, if you just want to say hello, you want to drop a greeting, activate the comment section, which is really, really quiet at the moment, okay? And speaking of quiet, right, this is not muted, so I've just turned off the sound. Speaking of which, a big hello to Laurie Glam, right, for being the first to say hello on my page. I appreciate it, right? And then those of you who are watching from Jessie's page and then from the ST page as well, right? Do make sure that you type in your comment there if you want to say hi, if you want to have a comment, if you want to contribute. So I always look forward to that. If you have basically experienced some aspect of the energies, if you've been experiencing some layers that relate to something that leads up or involving the actual Metal Dragon month itself, please do share in the comment section. And of course, if you have any questions, you can also type it there as well, and I will address it live with you as well. Okay, so now the deeper layers, okay, of the April Metal Dragon month, which started on April 5th, which was over this past weekend. So now we're a few days into it already. So that's why, even more so, if you've come to certain realizations, that if you're experiencing a certain sort of aha moment, some sort of realization, then of course, again, right, it would be very expected because we're already in the month itself, okay? So, and then today, April 8th, is also a fairly significant date itself for many reasons also, yeah? So now the deeper layers, okay? So first of all, this is the Metal Dragon month where the metal, yang metal specifically, sticks out on top of the animal sign of the dragon, yeah? And of course, within the dragon animal sign contains the capsule, which is the covering, right, the container chi of yang earth, which is basically Wu earth, okay? And then, of course, inside it is a trace of Kui water as the storage, and then Yi wood as the graveyard, right? So because it's the end of the spring season, so now the remnants of the wood energy is being kept or put into the grave, right? And then, of course, it's leading into summer season, right? So from snake month or snake year, just like this year itself, it's the start of the summer season. So that's why it will contain the last bit of water, right, as the storage pot of water as well. Now, the most important and most significant thing, right, is to look into the dragon as a checkpoint, right? It's a checkpoint month of spring, which means that after the developments of the tiger, which is all about generally speaking, about the most aggressive and the most immature but yet aggressive spurt of growth, right? So that is basically Jia Wood Qi, which is mainly anchored in the tiger. Okay, and then of course it's not just that, like I said, that very much aggressive, young spurt of the aggression or the movement forward type of Qi, but it also, of course, on the other layer, it's foundational as well, because Jia Wood is a solid, tall, big tree, of which, of course, the trunk establishes a solid pillar, right? So a foundation of sorts that is built so that then when you move into, of course, the rabbit month, then you have a added layer of Yi Wood, right? So you combine Yi Wood into Jia Wood. Recently, of course, I did a post on my timeline, so if you've not managed to read it, I do encourage you to read it. The perfect combination of Jia Wood and also Yi Wood, the combination of Yang Wood with also Yin Wood. So when we move from February to March, generally every year we have that also, right? So first we establish the main part of the growth energy that we want to build for the year, excitedly. So that's why around that solar Chinese New Year especially, right, the Lap Chun period, there's a lot of rituals, there's a lot of activations that we do from feng shui perspective, so that we make full use of the first month to establish the growth for the entire year, right? So that's Jia Wood. Then of course Yin Wood is the diversification, right? Even though of course the diversification word also applies to Jia Wood as well, but with Yi Wood, its meaning is more towards embellishment, surface marketing, right? How to make something look packaged nicely and of course pretty and attractive, right? Because of course Yi Wood also contains the charm element as well, right? That's the rabbit signs associated with that as well. So that it was of course going to help you market or complement the main energy of Jia Wood. Now with Yi Wood, it becomes more palatable, it's more attractive, it's more marketable, it's more easily sold, right? So that's why these two woods are like that. But of course, this year, what we find is because with the earth that's stacking on top, right, so it creates a clash counter to the 2 months, right? In a lot of ways, I've explained it in the previous 2 months of the forecast. So for now, because due to Facebook's new ruling, right, you can probably, I'm not even sure if the previous month's March outlook is still there, but usually you can look back at the timeline. So nowadays, I guess you just have to catch up. Right, with the April forecast, make sure you watch it and understand it, digest it as much as you can, because it's not going to stay on the timeline for more than 30 days, unfortunately, right? So what to do? We just have to keep up with the times. So, but the most important thing is that this year's growth energy, right, has a layer of earth on top. Okay, so in the interest of time, I won't go through the details, but what you need to do is basically you need the wood to be strong enough to penetrate through the earth. And then with that is the case with February. And then for March, of course, because I want to interrelate the progression from March to April, so I will touch base on that again. So moving on from here. So March now goes to April, and April, of course, is the last month of the wood season, the spring season. And in this case, suddenly you have an element of yang metal on top, right, in a wood season. So again, that's a clash counter situation as well, right? But more details right here as we move more into the other layers of the metal dragon energy, okay? So the interesting thing, and I'll explain more about this as well towards as we go through the rest of the outlook forecast, okay? The dragon is actually, right, also the last point where it takes growth energy, right, because it's mature growth, it's where the growth is at its final part, final phase, final month or final year, depending on whether you're talking about the movement of the months of the year, right? And in this case, it is where it takes that growth that's already maximized, hopefully, and matured, and it starts the manifestation cycle, right? Why? Because very simply put, dragon being the last month of spring, okay, or the wood animal signs, right, then will lead into the first summer fire animal sign, just like this year, the year of the snake. And then, of course, when we move from April to May into the month of the snake on a monthly annual cycle, okay? So then it goes through the fire cycle in a nutshell, right? Through the snake energy, which gives the option for us to manifest and to create magic with the fire energy. But because the fire that's contained in the snake is not, in a way, in a lot of ways, it's not very stable, right? It can convert to the metal element, fast forward, and already manifest the initial road or path towards the creation of the final product, the results, whatever it is that we want to learn at the end of the cycle. That's one. And at the same time, of course, it can also convert to water, which then sort of, makes the progression of the 5-element cycle a little bit of not so clear. It's not so straightforward. It allows you to modify it because water is very malleable, it's very soft, it's very fluid, right? So we also have that ability that goes on with the snake year, right? Within this year as well. So that's why with the main ins and outs, the deeper layers, the multiple facet layers of each year is what I examine in my annual Manifest Your Life workshop, which happens around spring, right? In about March, thereabouts. So similarly, last year and also this year, and with your blessings and your support, of course, for next year as well in 2026, right? So this is what I examine because every year comes with a very deep way that we can work with its energies. But the horse year, right, jumping ahead to 2026, is looking more straightforward because it's a very strong pillar of fire. But of course, when it's so strongly, almost purely fire, then of course its complementary aspects also come into play, right? So we leave that till later or as we're about to cross into next year itself, yeah? But dragon, the end of the growth energy, about to change into the transformative alchemy, magical energy of fire, because fire is the combustion element, which then of course changes and transforms all other elements, and then of course leads to earth, right? Fire produces earth, which is the progression when we move into the horse and then of course the goat years, and then with that we get into the ultimate results. So starting from the monkey and then into the rooster. So with the appearance of Keng metal on top, so one layer of it that is relevant to the month, right, is what is this appearance of the very, how to say, you can say very solid, very clear cut, right? Even though yang metal, Keng metal is not just, the metal that we see as a block of metal that is then shaped into a useful weapon, right? That's one layer of the imagery, but it's a tangible thing. It's a result, right? And because it's yang metal prior to yin metal, right, in the natural progression of the elements, right? So this is a raw form of something tangible. Okay, so that's what the appearance of this raw Keng or yang metal that appears up in April starts to show to us, and it gives us that indication of whatever reality that we're facing, we are experiencing some levels of the finality. Like this is it, right? This is what I have vibrated so far. This is what is going to be continued on if we continue on with the energies up to this current moment. So that's what this Keng metal or yang metal is able to indicate to us, yeah? Now, of course, just a quick recap here, right, into the Wood Snake 2025 year itself. So again, Yi Wood is now the heavenly stem that is moving from the heavenly stem of Yang Wood for 2024, right? In the Yang Wood Dragon year 2024, moving has gone now, of course, into the Yin Wood Snake of 2025. And the snake is where, right, the energy that is the earthly branch energy, right? It is the energy that gives us challenges, learning experiences, right? These challenges are here to teach us something. And once we're able to understand the lessons, then of course it is a question and a degree of the mastery of these lessons. How well and how masterful are we embracing these lessons so that then we can transmute everything that comes in as an opportunity. That's the progression, right, of the earthly branch, which is a more complicated, multi-layered energy. And of course, one thing I want to point out here is a very interesting fact that the snake itself, of course, the main chi is Ping fire, right? And Ping fire is the ultimate fire of the universe, right? Because it's the sun itself. And that's why the challenge of being able to shine as bright as possible, even though it might be requiring a lot of tests, a lot of situations, circumstances, or even you can say energy that will come and test it to put it out or to diminish the fire, to make it dimmer, or to give the sun less shine, or to diminish the sunlight power and to make it more cloudy and so on and so forth, right? So that's why a very, very interesting connotation to the Ping fire, that's the main energy. But then the other layer that's very, very important to note is the Keng metal, okay? So in the snake itself contains the growth of Keng metal, which will ripen fully when we get to the monkey year. So that's again the relevance back to Keng metal, okay, which of course contains its main root in the animal sign of the monkey, which in terms of the annual cycle comes on, right, in 2028, right? So that's also very relevant. So in other words, because of the connection between the snake and the monkey, and the fact that the snake itself contains the growth of the Keng metal that's in the monkey, so that's why this is the year that allows us again some degree of moving forward if we know how to play the cards. That means whatever that we do this year will have its repercussion first in the year 2028. Okay? And then, of course, we backtrack further, we see the repercussion of 2024 directly, even more so, directly connecting to the year 2029 itself. Okay? So, I know it's a little multi-layered and somewhat multi-layers of technicalities, right? But it's very important, okay? So now we take one step backwards first, okay? Now, on the outward level, okay, we want to be very aware that what we're building this year has to do with Yi Wood in terms of working with the energy of heaven. We talk about the pure energy of heaven, okay, which is embodied in the heavenly stem. So from Chia Wood of last year, now we have gone on to the Yi Wood of the 2025 wood snake year, right? So from the foundational structural growth, this year, right, well, if we were to talk about just a pure gift from heaven and working with it and maximizing the development of it, then of course we want to maximize the more sideways, creative, lateral growth of Yi Wood, which is again, you know, you can summarize in a few key terms, right? It is more surface oriented, it is more creativity, it is more marketing, it is more the ability to sell, for example, right? So these are all the Yi Wood's qualities. So we want to maximize it this year, right? And of course, the main month to do it is now over. It was actually in March, okay, with the rabbit month itself. Why? Because the rabbit itself is the main energy source, right? The annual storage of Yi Wood. Okay, so March was the year that we are, the month, sorry, that we are basically put through, you know, the opportunities and the challenges of being able to grow the Yi Wood to as strong a healthy plant or flower, at the same time to work on these aspects, which means that what? To work on marketing, branding, and beyond that, because marketing and branding tend to be more surface, right? Surface way of selling, for example, and presenting something. But Yi Wood is also, of course, out of the box thinking, really just sort of trying to find the loophole, right? Trying to find the path that 359 degrees is blocked, but there is that 1 degree that is a loophole, right? So the Yi Wood is able to crawl through that 1 degree, right? So it's also that. That means creative problem solving, being able to use out of the box thinking to generate whatever, right? New leads, generate more sales, generate more options, right? And so on and so forth. So March is basically the month to do that. Now, why I talk about this, why I want to look back here a little bit, because there is a deep connection between March and April as well, right? Because March is where, of course, we had the eclipses, of which I will recap a little bit, where we had the first of the pairings of the, first, of course, it was the total lunar eclipse followed by the partial solar eclipse. And with the start as well, the first phase of the retrogrades of Mercury and also Venus. So that all occurred in March itself. That's why there's a connection between the two, yeah? But outwardly, which is basically maximizing the energy of the Yi Wood, right? March was the month to do it, okay? And at the same time, okay, what happens is that we see that the anchor of the Yi Wood comes in March, okay, and then of course it directly is relevant and connects to the Yi Wood that appears on the stem for the entire year. So then with that, we come to April, okay? So then April, of course, Keng metal reveals itself out on the dragon of the month, and it is now in a combination with that Yi Wood of the year. Okay, so moving from March, where the anchor energy, the battery power source of Yi Wood is in, or comes in the form of the rabbit, and then it takes structure and framework in April. Okay, so you see that the relationship here, because again, what we want to do is maximize Yi Wood at the outer level, on the heavenly stem level, in terms of the energy that the universe is directly gifting all of us, right, with no holds barred. I want to maximize it regardless of what it means to you personally in your Bazi chart, right? So some people it is resource, some people it is wealth, some people it is influence, power. It doesn't matter. Because when you maximize it in its totality, you would have that energy already. You're just basically receiving the blessings of Yi Wood from the heavens lah. Okay? Although, for example, if you are a Chi Earth person like me, Yi Wood comes in the form of what? Challenges, because it's the 7 killings, right? But it doesn't matter, because if you are maximizing this, then you're also maximizing the Yi Wood's growth, the energy in totality of the Yi Wood, which then in April, this month itself, finds structure. Because Yi Wood on its own is quite, in a way, backboneless, right? It's spineless. It is like no real spine to it, so it's just flopping all over the place, looking for example, Jia Wood, but in terms of this Keng metal, right? Because Keng then combines Yi Wood. Now, of course, you can look into the many nuances of it, but the main energy is that it holds it up. It gives it framework, it gives it structure. Okay, so that's why, right? It gives it principles. Those are the keywords there when it comes to what April is then extending, and the energy that has built from March onwards to the heavenly stem of the year, which is the annual theme, the annual energy. So that's the surface level, right? Because Keng Yi, okay, for those of you who are not familiar, is a heavenly stem combination, which is, again, if we look into pure heavenly stems, it is always a blessing. I think if we just have that shift in mentality there, right, it already is very, very positive and an empowered way to use the energies of heavenly stems overall. Okay, so that's one layer. On the yang level, the outer surface layer, we get the structure, solidity that gives us then the framework, right? A better overall set of principles governing ways of doing something, so that then the Yi Wood's energy of sideways creativity, out of the box craziness, right? The ability to find loopholes and creatively solve problems and so on, right? Has a structure to a framework to be relied on, right? If not, it might be not dependable, for example, right? All the for those of you who are familiar with the heavenly stems, right? All the so-called less positive qualities of Yi Wood, well, will be minimized, okay, or diminished with the Keng metal's presence, okay, to hold it up firmly together. Especially since Keng metal itself is the element of altruism, loyalty, right, and so on, right? Whereas Yi Wood is quite the opposite. Okay, not so altruistic, not that loyal, right? But when it combines together with Keng metal, it gives it that sense of fairness, justice, and doing the right thing lah, not just being selfishly oriented. Okay, so outwardly that is a gift for all of us. Okay, from the yang perspective. Then we talk about the yin perspective. But before we get into that, okay, quick hellos here to Alexis, of course Lori Takashi is watching from Japan. Lori Glam, where are you watching from? I have 2 Loris on my page, which is both spelled the same way, which is pretty unique and awesome, right? Chumpon Katie is also here. She's watching from Thailand. Marianne is here. Al is here as well. Okay, good evening to you ladies. Okay, and we can also maybe refresh this side a little bit, Nicole, right? Just to make sure everyone's acknowledged. So now, let's talk about why dragon and movement into snake. So from 2 perspectives, okay, the annual perspective from 2024 to 2025, larger, more macro, and then of course when we talk about the movement between the dragon month and the snake month as well. So if you're familiar with a lot of the sharings that I've done, and especially a lot of the sharings that my partner Jessie has shared openly in Manifest with Precision, last year's workshop, that was open for everyone, and the multi-levels from the annual talk to power up to you name it, right? So this is a fact that is emphasized a lot, right? Because when we go in between the magic of the dragon and the snake, now, to be honest, years ago I heard from several sources. Okay, one of it was Lillian too. Okay, about how dragon and snake are one pairing of animal signs which are magical. Right then, I was thinking, okay, you think, right? Okay, what does it mean, right? What does it mean is magical? Is it really magical, and so on, right? Because we always have this balance of the conscious logic part of our energy, right? To self-check against anything that's more intuitive in nature, isn't it? And I was like, okay, then I put it aside. Okay, maybe it's a marketing thing. Maybe it's to describe the beauty of the two, serpentine animal signs, okay? Because they're both, in a way, quite interrelated and quite serpentine, right? Even the dragon itself. And in some cultures, and the way that people understand these two animals, sometimes they're interchangeable also, isn't it? So, and then because of the information that was then discovered, things which were revealed to us by just, the downloads, the downloads and so on that we get. And then, of course, by further research and so on, then we realized that, wow, they're actually very magical, okay? In fact, every transition of the animal sign, you move from one animal sign to another, right? There's a lot of magic that is actually very deep. That when you unlock it, you realize that there's so many ways, deeper ways of working with animal signs overall, okay? So, and when we cross the path of dragon into snake, we are actually, right, if you look into it from the 24 mountains direction, right, of course, we have to enter through Sun Gua itself, right? And Sun Gua, the Gua Sun, okay, is actually one of the main four portals, right? So the four Guas, right, which is basically Sun, Gen, Qian, and also Kun, those are actually portals, okay? But if we equate them to the dragon sign that follows it, I mean the animal sign that follows it, then of course, for example, Earth Gate, which is the Sun Gua itself, lying on the Sun Gua sector, is actually the snake animal sign, right, that follows into it. So, and a lot has been said about this when we cross from the dragon to the snake, right, how the portal, Sun Gua portals in between the two animal signs and so on, is very, 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 very relevant, especially in this current period 9, because there have been period 9s every 180 years, but this particular one that we are at is especially special. So, not wanting to go into too much details on that. That's why as we evaluate the years of the dragon and the snake, and also the months of the dragon and the snake, it is very important for us to take note of all of these significance, okay? So years are here, right? 2024 and 2025, I particularly highlighted it because, of course, by moving from the dragon to the snake, we cross through the Sun Gua Earth portal, or the Earth Gate there. And for this period 9, it is especially important and relevant, period, in a summarized nutshell, yeah? So then, of course, when we look into the months, now, yes, you can say, yeah, okay, makes sense, right? So now then, of course, when we cross every April to every May, every dragon month to every snake month, it is also significant, yes, from the annual cycle, yes, but because of the significance of the related 2 years here. So it's even more significant, right? 2024 to 2025. And we shall see many layers of why this is even more so important. Because remember, right, we will get a dragon month every single year, okay? And we will get a wood dragon year every 60 years, correct? But the transitions when we move into period 9 and when we move into period 1, right, so they will not transit on the same type of dragon. Okay, so this only occurs in period 9, period 3, and also period 6, where the first year is a wood dragon year, okay, of that particular period. 6, 9, and then also 3. That's why 3, 6, 9, right? Those of you who recently followed Jessie's presentation workshop, okay, the whole day on 7-star robbery, right, is very, very significant for this particular reason. Why? Because the first heavenly stem is Jiawud. Jiawud is the first heavenly stem to charge out of the gate, and it is the first one, is the most, the pioneer, right? And it only comes in, right, as a opening to period 9, 3, and 6. That's why it's even more relevant, right? And then one more thing to share with you. I know it's a lot of information tonight, but I did not how to say, I thought about whether I wanted to share this also, the next part which I'm about to talk about with you, because it's another layer to understand. So if you get it, you get it. As Jessie always says, if you don't, it's okay, right? Maybe once you go deeper into astrology, into 八字, then you'll be able to see it. But those of you who are practitioners, you will know what I mean, right? Because if you look into every 6 years, right, every 6 pillars of the dragon, the rooster, and then with the dog and the rabbit, they will always connect in the stem and then also with the branch, which basically with the heavenly stem on top and then with the animal sign, right? Every 6 animal signs, but only the pairing with the consisting of the dog with the rabbit and then with the dragon to the rooster will have this connection one, okay? Where the heavenly stem is a combination pairing, and then the earthly branch is a 6 combination or 6 harmony pairing as well. So which means that when you follow this cycle of 12 years, right, you will see that the year of the dragon will always result or connect with the year of the rooster, and similarly on the opposite cycle, which I didn't put out here, right? So the year of the dog will always connect to the year of the rabbit. It's no exception one, right? But yes, it will keep shifting, right? So while 2024 is wood dragon, right, 12 years later is going to be the fire dragon. So its energy is different. And why is this more significant? Because Jia Wood is the first heavenly stem. That's why it opens period 9. That's why it is more, progressive in terms of the energy of the heavenly stem, right? Wood to fire to earth and so on, right? There you go. Okay, so those of you who know the 6 combinations and the heavenly stem combinations, you know exactly what I mean, right? So now that we look, right? 2024, this is May, correct, May in 2024 last year. Okay, so last year, of course, is the wood dragon year, which opens period 9, right here, the first of the magic animal signs, okay? Which, of course, first, of course, has this connection to the tiger lah. That's why the connotation of crouching tiger, hidden dragon, okay? And then opening into the snake. So in 2024, wood dragon. But in May of 2024 was the earth snake month, right? So, and then the heavenly stem of the earth reveals or comes out as the stem of the snake month last year. This is in May of 2024, and that's a combination, okay? So when we see a Jia Wood and a Qi Earth combination, right? So it's an earth combination, and it is basically, in a way, right, Jia Wood meeting its death, its finality, right? Because, you know, wood at the end of the day is the starting ingredient, right? Okay, that is the tangible ingredient of energy. And then after that, it will, basically combust and it will create earth. And earth, of course, is like the ground, right, that contains 10,000 things, right? And is where wood energy, which is growth energy, is then put to rest lah. You die, right, or things die, living things, right, go through the cycle of basically birth and then death, right, and ends up back into the earth itself, right? So foundation of feng shui as well. It's the same thing. So the interesting thing is when we come to May of 2024, while moving through the wood dragon year of 2024, suddenly May comes and gives us this theme overall, right, of finality, right? So what does this mean overall, right? So to me, this is a death opportunity, okay? And of course, if we're not cognizant, we're not so aware, then we see it more of like a blockage or things come to a stop. So that's why when this information came to me, I was doing my research last year, right? And then I was excited about the prospects of, again, the inner work, right? In conjunction with this magic of the months interacting with the year, right? I was so excited that, okay, you know, we're going to do inner work workshops now. We're going to focus on manifestation because other indications about May, for example, both last year and this year, right, also indicate a lot of opportunity for us to do that, right? So that we can manifest for the future years and at least also for the next 6 months to come when we come to the cusp of April and also May, right? But as I was curating these workshops, right, the information became very clear that no, it's not just about creating what we want in the future, but it's about the dying, the slaying, and the killing off of whatever blockages that appear or that we have created ourselves. This was a realization at the end of April of last year. So that's why the workshop, the on-ground workshop that we did, there was I think it was a hybrid. It was on-ground and also online. So those of you who participated in it, I think it was called Quantum Leap. As I was curating and finalizing what I wanted to do and what I wanted to talk about, as much as I was excited in the manifestation angle last year, okay, even more so than this year, right? But when I came to the realization, I was realized, no, we have to work on blockage. We have to work on clearance, release of stagnation, blockages, whatever that we've vibrated that is actually making us less good, blocking us, right? Hindering our growth, locking down our soul and so on, right? So during the workshops, a large part of the meditation was focused on that, right? So in other words, in summary, I share this now because last year was more of that energy, right? When we traversed the portal of the dragon into the snake. But this year is slightly different, okay? Now, of course, we are reversing the order, right? Snake year and now in combining with the dragon month. And can you see that, again, the year combines with the month in terms of its heavenly stem, right? Because we have Yi Wood as the heavenly stem, the annual theme of 2025. But Keng metal comes out now in April. So again, there's a big aha moment, right? Of all months, but it connects back to, of course, if you count it, it will logically add up lah. But even that is like, okay, wow. So as we cross into the monthly portal of both the annual portals, we also get combinations on top. Okay, so very, very significant. So now, if we look into this particular angle, right? Now we know Keng metal giving structure to Yi Wood. I already talked about that in the previous 10-15 minutes or so. But now we have the Keng metal, which has its growth in the snake, okay, because the snake year, right, is the king, the Tai Shui itself, right? And it appears out on top now, okay? Which means that it gives us that, again, snapshot, right, of the metal energy, which is the raw metal. This is the yang metal, that's why it's more raw, of the results, the lessons, which of course then lead into the ability for us to draw out the wisdom, to extract the essence, and to have the karma ripen, right? So it gives us a snapshot of this. And because Keng and Yi is a metal combination, so that's why the emphasis on metal energy, which is always a final product, right? Or at least some form or shape of the final product, right? So now this portal now, crossing April month, connecting to the snake month, but within the snake year itself is more of a creation opportunity. It's more of a manifestation portal, more so than last year, right? So last year is getting rid of, right? So you have to destroy. So it's more related to the past, right? Of course, then we are in the current, right, as we speak. But then now moving right, into April and then of course into May as well of the current snake year, it is more of a creation opportunity for us in the future or for the future, right? Especially unfolding in the next few years to come and coming out to fruition more in 2028 and also in 2029. So this is a very exciting time that we live in, and it is under the guise, right, of very deep inner work energies. Look, March was the eclipse pairing, eclipse season, which is very relevant to where we are at the moment, right? April is then, of course, where a lot of planetary movements, major planetary movements, I'll talk about that in a moment. And at the same time as well, we are moving into the second half, well more into the last third, okay, of the dragon snake portal overall. Okay, so that's why this is a very, very significant portion. So how do we use this information, right? So from two perspectives, again, yang and yin. So on one layer, of course, yang is about the creation opportunities, right? We should talk about already, especially in terms of structurally giving framework to Yi Wood energy, right? But what do we do then now with this more in-depth energy of the Keng metal appearing, right, as the seed that's carried in the snake? Okay, so then we look into where we are, what our current reality is reflecting. So, and again, from the yin and yang perspective, right? So what does the current reality show you in terms of what you are experiencing? Do you like it? Is it favorable? Do you also because you can feel it in the body, it's a body sensation. It's a reality that's mirrored out in the events happening, situations, in your interactions with people around you, right? And so on. So what is going well and what's going not so well? What is being created that you can see actual snapshots of, right? That if you continue moving on this path, you will get more of, right? So you get more of the not so great things and the more of the great things as well. So we always have to be coming from two particular perspectives, right? So, and when we have this knowledge, what are we going to do about it? Because we are at the cusp of these two animal signs, hence we're still maneuvering through the portal, even though we're mostly into the second side already, right? Mostly into the last third, in fact, right? For the remaining of the snake year. But if we continue doing this, we'll get more of it. That's what it's saying. Whether it's favorable, it's unfavorable, whether it's desired or not desired, whether it's something that brings you joy or something that brings you the opposite of that, okay? And of course, with this knowledge, then we are supposed to then transmute it. What do we want? Continue creating whatever that is looking good, whatever little outcomes that you can see that is something that you want to magnify more of for the next few years to come. If it's something that is opposite of that, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to change about it? Then, of course, there are ways of doing it, right? One is, of course, just to shift the mindset so that our action is changed. And then with that, of course, we want to then energize this different action so that we get a different result at the end of the day. That's one. Secondly, of course, can we actually look back and recreate the past? Well, in some ways we can. Right, so this is what we're going to explore more in my pairing of workshops, which are coming up this week and also next week. It's an inner work thing, right? And of course, if you have your own modalities, if you've done previous exercises and so on, you can continue to do that as well. Then, of course, there are other ways that can give us more information as to what we can transmute of the past doings or the past sort of decision making, the missteps that we have taken as well. Right, so that we can change that energy vibration so that then it is lighter in the present moment, and then it will hopefully steer away, right, to a different path for the future as well. Okay, so that's where we are at the moment in the very powerful Metal Dragon April month. Yeah, and then this will give us more color and more theme, because when we look in the moon cycles, we're basically looking into the yin energy, right, our internal energy and so on, right, which of course when combined with the outer yang, the achievement-oriented, the more day-to-day yang energy that we have, that drives our motivation forward, right? Then we have more overall in totality, right? So that's why understanding moon cycles gives us that. And of course, there are no more powerful moments of the lunar cycle than, of course, eclipse. So last month was the eclipse season, right? But overall, I want to share this with you. So in the current 18 months, which started with the eclipse cycles in March, okay? So the theme overall, right, of this eclipse, right, is moving from, okay, busyness. Busyness means what? A very, like day-to-day sort of a thing, right? So we're doing this, then the next day we're doing a very routine, things that we keep on auto. Yes, it's stuff that we need to do, right? For example, reporting to work, churning out workshops, right? Meeting clients and getting them to close, so that you get the deals and the sales from them. That's very routine, isn't it? So is that when we get in those modes, we can a lot of times lose awareness of what else is happening around us, right? So I'm one of this type of people. But overall, as society beings, right? So we want to move from that, and the moon cycles, the eclipse especially, helps us do this. So that we're more into an awareness mode, that's one. And then also within that, so from very tangible 3D reality, materialism overall, right? That means evaluating or valuing life from tangibles, okay, materialism and so on, right? We want to move from that and into something that's loosely more deeper and more spiritual. So this current 18 months of the eclipse cycles will help us do that, and it only just started in March. Now, just as a little bit of a look back, in the previous 18 months from the eclipse seasons, 18 months last year and backwards the 1.5 years there, it is more about, and then I'm sure a lot of us have gone through that journey as well, up to the 2024 especially, right? Which is about, pleasing other people, right? That's why I just term it as peacemaking, right? Going with the flow of the group, right? Covering ourselves, making ourselves small for the sake of the happiness of a total environment. It could be a family, it could be a community, it could be an industry even, right? And now after emerging by the end of 2024 more into individual soul freedom. Okay, so moving from people pleasing, giving away our power just to be peaceful and nice, right, towards honoring more of loving ourselves, our own values, our own principles, and then of course that ownership of identity. So that is what the eclipse cycles have been aiding us up to 2024, and then nicely into the newer theme of the current 18 months, which is the top part which I just spoke about. Why am I sharing this? Because like I said, if we talk about maximizing the awareness and the ability for us to reach deep into our psyche and our soul at the moment, which will expire soon. We talk about it from the astrology, from the overall universal or at least solar system energy cycles, right? So we want to be able to fully harness this before we move from May onwards for the rest of the snake year itself. Yeah. So what other planetary movement basically support this major shift as well? Okay, so we have planet Neptune moving into Aries. Now, Neptune is one of the outer planets which is more about our consciousness, right? Not so much about day-to-day life. So that's why it's got a deeper perspective, and it's the one that is the anchor of spirituality, meaning of life and so on, as souls living on Earth. Okay, and then Aries is the first of the 12 zodiac cycle in the Western horoscope. Okay, and this movement has just occurred officially. Now, of course, there is going to be retrogrades, which means that although Neptune has moved into Aries since the end of March 30th, it will still go back, retrograde back into Pisces, the 12th sign. Right, so that's like moving from the last sign into the first sign as a movement forward. Okay, it will still retrograde back, but that's beside the point. The main point is now that it's gone into a fresh new sign, and not just any sign, it's the first sign of the entire cycle. So it's gone into spring, if you understand it better from the Chinese elements perspective or the wood element perspective. Okay, so Aries has that connotation of that. Right, it's the birthing energy as well. Remember I said Jia wood, okay, which is a lot of that young, aggressive spurts of growth type of energy, right? And this movement only happens one in roughly 165 years, so it's quite significant, right? It's almost as long as an entire cycle of 9 periods. Okay, so that's why it's significant of a start of a new zodiac cycle, and more particularly a rebirth. Now, what type, right? Because we're moving from into Aries from the last sign of Pisces. Okay, so of course it's moving into a rebirth, a fresh start. And because Neptune is the planet that's associated with, ironically, Pisces, the sign, and also it's got to do with core spirituality, the anchor energy of our meaning, of our soul growth, our soul's path in the lives that we lead. So that's why the overall theme right now is the season, okay, of a 150 plus year cycle season of embodied spirituality overall. Now, what does this mean, right? That means you're taking the spiritual perspective, whatever it is. Now, spirituality is not religion. That's one perspective. Spirituality is not just all about meditation. Spirituality is not just about doing inner work. Spirituality is living with our spirit, following our spirit, right? Letting our spirit guide us, living a spiritual existence within a physical body on earth, right? So it's beyond just those simple terms. It's beyond just morality. It's beyond just religious dogma and so on, right? So that means it's not just about living a holy life, for example. It's not just about doing meditative practices all day long, and that's not how we define spirituality, right? So it is how we let the spirit exercise and explore its freedom and experience as most as we can within our physical, earthly, human bodies, right? And that's what we're going to do, which means that it's going to be about embodying this. So if you have not found it, then it's difficult to embody, right? What your spirit is calling you out for, or what it wants to yearn for. But if you are, then you have to also embody it, which helps when Neptune moves into, and is supported as Neptune is now into Aries as well. So it's a very exciting time to be more in line with your spirit in terms of the mind and also the body, right? And bringing all three together with it, yeah? Now, just really quick on this, I already spoke about it in the previous previous update, right? So what is underlying all this as well, right, is the smallest two planets. Now we come, Neptune is further out. It's got a deeper connotation, more about consciousness of our soul, right? But whereas Mercury and Venus is very day-to-day. Mercury is very day-to-day. Venus is very interactive. That means it's about how we feel about ourselves and how we then project it outwards in our relationship dynamics with other people around us. So those two are the most tangible planets, shall we say, right? So that's why overall, in March, started the first phase of the retrograde of Mercury aligning with Venus in the same signs, same area of the sky, right? And these are, of course, the details there. But overall, the theme with these two planets in retrograde with each other, moving into April for the second half, the conclusion, right? It's about, again, re-anchoring back into the depths of our soul before moving forward so that we can path whatever movement forward that we want from snake year onwards, especially, right? And this is about realigning our sense of self, right, and how we relate to the world at large, right? So, and then you can see in terms of the planetary movement there, right, we talk about the retrograde of Mercury moving backwards in the sign of Aries, right, that started in March of the 15th. Then because Aries, when you move backwards, it goes back into Pisces, okay, which are the two segments of the astrology where Neptune has moved in between and forward into, right, and so on and so forth, right? So you see that Mercury in Aries, then after that retrograde, and then retrograde back to Pisces, and then after the retrograde period, it moves forward. So now, as of yesterday, Mercury is now moving forward in the previous sign that it was in, Pisces. Forward, now moving forward. Then after that, it will move into Aries in the mid of April, which is April 16, which means that there is the exploration phase, the examination, the reassessment part. Then there is the learning. Oh, now that I've looked back and event circumstances that people, interactions with people have shown to me something about the reality of my life, okay, of what I'm supposed to be aware about. So the retrograde helps that. When it moves forward back in the same retrograde zones, that now moving forward, then it is more of the realization, the awareness, the what are you going to do about it? That thing comes back. It's more easily triggered in our mind, okay, with the forward movement back into the same areas. So Venus similarly, right? But of course, Venus is slower moving. It is a slightly larger orbit around the sun, right? So you see the retrograde in Aries, then retrograde back to Pisces, which is towards on March 27 at the end of the month. Then after that, in Pisces itself, it goes forward only a few days away from now on April 13th. And then by the end of the month, April 30th, you see a complete Venus in Aries forward movement, which means, in short, right, whatever examination in terms of what we want to do, because Mercury is day-to-day energy, in relation to the energy of our own sense of self, in projecting our own values, in interacting and interpersonal dynamics with others, right? Because how we actually react when it comes to the people around us, other people, anybody is actually always a function of how we feel about ourselves. So that's what we have here, yeah? So, and then this aligns a lot again with the whole idea of past, present, and also future, right? So with the retrograde allows us to delve into the past in a nutshell, right? The current is anchored in a more meaningful way because planet Mars is about the energy of our individual wants, our egoic desires, what we want to achieve from a day-to-day basis in relation to the sun, okay? The soul, the energy of the soul, right? So Mars is about that, and Mars has been in a very contemplative, I'll just summarize it in one word, contemplative zone, not for the past 2 months, not the 3, not 4, but about half a year, right? It's softer. The egoic desires get a wash and a bath, right? It is also, of course, healing the inner masculine in all of us so that we have a better anchor of what our masculine energy is desiring. So we have a better heart-based masculine energy that's not just randomly trying to charge forward. That's what the yang masculine energy likes to do, right? But it's got the deeper depth and meaning to it. So that is enabled up to about April 18th. Then it goes to Leo, right? It connects with the full masculine force forward. Okay, So when that happens, of course, then we are less inclined to think deeper, to think deeply, right? We are more operating on the surface level. So that happens only from April 18 onwards, thereabouts, okay? Then overall, of course, the key anchor energy, right, which anchors us into a very exciting future, right, is this now new movement of Neptune entering into Aries, so that we can be better embodying our own sense of spirit and spirituality, okay? So in a nutshell, I've divided the two timelines based on this. So from a couple of days back up to about April 17 onwards, right, we're still in the more retrograde sort of a feel, right? And so on and so forth, right? So that's why it is still time for us to be more zen and more inwards looking. So try to do that more, right? I know from the outer level, a lot of us have busy life. We have targets to meet, we have plans to fulfill, and so on and so forth, right? But really, right, we have this energy only with us up to about 17th, which is another couple of weeks from now, right? So this is still the period for us to look deeply into how we can shift our mindset on whatever that we need to, so that we can hopefully adjust our desires, what we want or we want to achieve. Then, of course, with that new adjustment, then we will use the energy to create new goals overall. Yeah, and then in the second half, it is more of a forward energy already. So that's when we can ride on it, right? So that's why I say don't waste the periods in this coming 2 weeks, right? That's why spend more time doing inner work, self-discovery. If you need to then unravel more layers of it. Oh wow! This is my personal Chilin. Okay, doesn't he look like a Chilin? This is Mocha. Okay. Why you always want to Chong Kang Tao, are you? Sin metal. Yeah, he's a sin metal, that's why he's here. Okay. So cute. Anyway, so second half of the month, April 18 up to the end of the month itself, moving to a very exciting May. Okay, so that's when we can focus more on the forward, and that's the moving forward, new goals and also new directions. Okay, so remember, right, 2 weeks, just 2 weeks only, hold on, hold off. So hold on, hold off, think deeper before taking any action, right? Drop into the heart, feel it. Does it feel right or not? Right, in a nutshell, right? So, and then of course try to embody whatever decisions they're making from now on, if you want to improve your life, right, from a more embodied spirituality perspective, okay? And of course, you know, sometimes it's chicken egg, sometimes it's egg chicken, right? So for some reason, everything aligns together, right? So we've got, of course, a couple of things lined up in April, which is very exciting. So the first, of course, is basically my inner workshops, which start this first session. I have a pairing of workshops. One is on this Thursday, followed by the second part of it, which is next Friday, so April 10th and also April 18th, right? I know a bunch of you have signed up for it. I appreciate it. I'm very excited about it. I'm slightly nervous, but I'm very much looking forward to it, right? For a self-challenge, finally, I'm holding my own on-ground workshops, okay? And because it requires inner work, so you have to take the action and you have to take the initiative towards it. And to do that, also, you need to also not just click on the link and pay, which is our normal online workshops, right? But you have to WhatsApp our ST number, right? 6012-908-9914 to book your spots for this workshop that has its first session this Thursday, right? At our studio, of course, in Casa Utama, PJ. Right, so if you're not familiar, don't worry, we'll provide the detailed directions and all that by Thursday itself, okay? So first session this Thursday, next session on Friday. I hope you can join me. Like I said, I have a whole, 3 layers of feelings about it, right? But I'm very much looking forward to it, okay? So we're going to do some inner work exercises. We're going to be doing some discussion as well, right? I'm going to work towards energy clearing, and also chakra alignment, basically through sound, right? Instruments, and also through the power of voice, not just mine, but also with yours as well as a participant. So please, I look forward to seeing you, okay? So please do WhatsApp our number if you like that. Then of course, okay, another thing as well that you may have seen on the rounds of our emails and so on, which is this that's happening this weekend. And with this, I'd like to welcome my special guests. For the evening. Ta-da!
Obviously, I've been waiting for the longest time.
Wait. When's Kong you gonna shut up and finish his talking,
okay,
right?
it's like he's definitely more long-winded than me.
Are you sure?
Anyway, yes. definitely. Ask Nicole.
That one I think is still a toss, a competition.
Okay,
between all of us.
let's get it over with.
Yes. Okay, so I come.
Yeah. I guess it's like many of you have already signed up. Okay, we have almost 200 of you who signed up for this particular workshop itself. Okay, but we still have more decks with us. Okay, to give away. So I really call out to you, as Kong Yu have already mentioned earlier on. Okay, he bring it back to last year in 2024, where the Jia Chen year is. Okay, where this like official entering into the period 9 itself. Okay, where magic is going to happen. And he also mentioned about this year's portal opening between the dragon and also the snake itself. Okay, this year we've talked about it during the annual talk and all that.
Yeah.
And you look at it, it's like, no way, the best time, I know a lot of time people talk about portal opening, right? People will be like thinking about, oh, manifestations,
Yeah.
oh, what my goals are, okay, what are the things I want to achieve, okay, let me just wish for something to happen. Now, we always talk about it. In order for us to manifest, the most important thing is we have to do clearings. Clearance of whatever internal seeds, okay, that we have within us, okay, that is pulling us back, that is in a way hindering us from manifesting forward. So therefore, whenever the portal opens, remember, okay, whenever you want to in a way try to achieve something, the higher it is, the more you want to in a way bend, okay, backward in order for you to leap forward or leap higher. So in a way, Jia Chen, okay, like how Kong Yu has mentioned it, Jia Chen, every time period 9 will comes in during a Jia Chen year. 180 years later, it will be the same thing, Jia Chen year as well. And Jia Chen is one of the most sturdy, okay, not one of the most, it's the most sturdy 60 pillar, okay, of Jia, right, which is like in a way it is like rooted, okay, it is also in a way in the season, okay, where Kong Yu has mentioned about it, the growth season, and you also have like water minerals inside, and it's like nicely in a way mounted on a very fertilized and healthy soil, okay, and that's Jia Chen. So overall, okay, Jia Chen is like the tree of life. It is growing, it has its potential to grow and create its magic. Now we come to Yi Se, where Kong Yu also mentioned this month especially, where the Geng Chen comes in, okay, and the Geng over here is to look, it's like Geng is about action, decision. For us to actually look deep into this Chen, the root of the Jia, right, to see, okay, what are the roots to trim? What are the things in this particular tree of life itself that we have to trim? Whatever that no longer serves us, that we have to trim it away. So therefore, okay, when we actually in a way brings up this workshop, it's called the Awakening Oracle Workshop, or the Tao Workshop itself. It's all looking into the roots of ourselves. Now, we are the tree of life. Our soul is the tree of life, where we have grown over many, many lifetimes, okay? And then, in many of us, okay, we have gone into a certain stage where we felt that things are just not growing anymore, okay? Things has in a way been stagnant. So in order for us to in a way grow further, we have to look deeper into ourselves, just like a big tree itself, okay? Whenever the big tree have issues or problems or diseases or whatever, it's more often than not is the root. The root needs to be sturdy. The root needs to be in a way mounted, as in like grounded, rooted, okay? And also the root has this particular efficiency or capability to in a way draws in the resources and also the nutrients, right? So therefore, the Awakening Oracle here, which is happening this Saturday, is a deck specially curated. I would say that it's a darker, it's a shadow deck, okay? It is specially curated for us. Yeah, it's very deep, okay, to look deeper within ourselves. And then the spreads that I will share with you here, it's all about shadow self spreads. It's all about looking into the deeper side of ourselves, to go deep within us, to dig whatever that no longer serves us, and to trim away, okay, all these whatever energies that's holding on to us, that's pulling us back, so that in this particular magical portal, okay, of this year itself, we can actually leap and bounce higher. All right, so the deck itself, for some of you, okay, you have already gotten it. We have just in a way sent out 40 over decks, right, to a dear student, Michelle, thank you so much, okay? So happened that she'll be going to Singapore soon, and she will bring down the decks, okay, to Singapore. And also we have another of our senior Soul Journey students, Desmond, in Singapore. Mr. Lim will also help us to anchor the energy in Singapore, where those of you in Singapore, you can do your self collection, okay, from them. But of course, with a minimal fee, okay? Much, much cheaper than direct shipping, okay, to Singapore for you, all right? So therefore, we have all these decks in a way, like in preparations, like have been sent out. Whenever you get the decks, okay, the front looks like this. Inside you have the cards, okay, and also you have a crystal, okay, that is part of the deck as well. And the crystals itself, it varies, okay, in different decks, right? This is one is Tiger Eye. So when you get the deck this Saturday itself, or if you have not gotten the deck this Saturday, we'll send you an e-copy so that you can learn and follow us through, where we'll guide you on different spreads for you to use this particular deck itself to look within yourself to see what are the blockages or the seeds, okay, of issues or energy that's holding you back and in the way stopping you from successfully manifesting in your life.
Yes.
All right. So remember, we are actually selling this at $299. Okay. For the first 300, you will get a deck. Okay, free. It is a self-collection, either in PJ here. Now we have in Singapore as well. And then we have some decks in Australia already. So those of you who are in Australia, if you're joining us, we can also have the deck delivered to you, but you have to pay for the shipping fees. All right. So do join us, happening this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so and this is a very powerful, very deep deck.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, the workshop is happening this Saturday.
Maybe I can show
12th of April, right?
Yes, yeah.
And you just a couple of course, you get this complimentary. And I was just thinking, what a deal. I mean, it's only $299.
Yeah.
Right, such a low price, okay, with
Yes.
the workshop, the one whole day workshop,
Yeah.
and of course inclusive of a physical copy. Now remember, you don't need to wait for the physical copy to be able to do the workshop, because the whole PDF
Yes.
of all the cards will also be sent to
Yeah,
you.
for those of you in US, we also have Shirley, okay, who actually volunteered herself to bring the decks to US, where then you can arrange a self-collection or shippings within US itself. It saves a lot on shipping costs, okay? And those of you in Europe itself, we will have students in a way, okay, joining our soul journey, which will be flying back to Italy. So if you're near surrounding, I think we have people from Romania and all that who sign up for this, right? Maybe from Italy, when it's shipped out to Romania, it will be much cheaper as well, okay? So therefore, I really hope that you can join me on this particular workshop itself. As you can see, whenever it comes to our inner work workshop, the price are highly subsidized. All right, because we want to encourage more people to go deep down into yourself, to go deep down into your inner work and work on our shadow self in order for us to maximize the potential of this year's portal opening.
Correct, right?
All right.
And now is the time, like I was saying, right? April, the Metal Dragon month is really the month to do as much of this inner work as well, right? So that you have more of a forward momentum come May onwards, and for the rest of the snake year as well.
Yeah.
Right, and before the exciting Fire Horse year next year.
All right. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, I guess that's all.
That's all for now. Just a quick look into if there are any questions here, right? And also quick hellos. Okay, thank you so much for everyone for joining us across our social media pages, right? And then of course there, Peter quite had a question from just now. I think quite about almost 25 minutes ago. What if we are lacking a water element? At the end of the day, when we talk about using the current energies, right? Normally we look into the highest and also the deepest way of using the energy. So we don't talk about lacking, for example. We don't talk about favorable, unfavorable. We just talk about what's the best way to get to the core and the beautiful, pure energy that it represents, right? So it doesn't really matter if you're lacking of water per se, but in terms of being able to use with the current portal energies at the moment, okay?
All right.
Okay.
I guess that's all?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, all of you. Okay. Good night.
Yes, good night.